Good morning. And we will start the show right now. It is, what time is it? Is it ready to go? We are ready to go. This is Joel Fury. I'm going to wait for the comments to come in before we start. See who's here. A lot of times I'll play the opening video and no one will see it because no one's checked in, because I'm sure Robin's here. Okay. Good morning, Robin. Good to see you. So I want to talk about today is how strong is America, or is America strong? I guess is the title that Gina, the intrepid producer, picked. So I ran into something. Here we go. Lucas is here, and Carrie is here. Carrie, you're usually the first one to check in. See you too. Good morning, Lucas. AC's here. All right. Well, let's get the show on the road here. I want to play something from Victor Davis Hanson, and kind of gave me the idea for the show, what he talked about on how someone what would it take to destroy America? And I think I'll just play that for you now.
Hello, this is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal. I was looking at the news this week, and I thought of an experiment. What if you really wanted to destroy the United States? What if you'd had ill intention for America? What would you do? What agenda would you pursue? And then I started thinking of civilizations. What was the stuff of civilizations that make them work? And it's basic. Their borders, their finances, their unity, their fuel, their food. So if you really wanted to, in civilizational terms, destroy the United States, the first thing I would do if I was an enemy of the United States was I would destroy the borders. In other words, I would just let anybody.
Okay. And then he goes on to talk about each one of those elements: the borders, the finances, unity, fuel, and food. And he kind of breaks it down into how in the last 5 years, obviously, as we all know, has happened. And the election of last year, and what's currently happening now is a response to all of that. And specifically, what I wanted to focus on today was the finances, because that's obviously what's big in the news. And hopefully I can get your guys' thoughts on some of this. Michael kept us late in class again. Boy, that guy, man, I'm going to have to have yet another talk with him about that. So borders, obviously we know, and I'm living in San Diego County, which is right next to a border, obviously bottom left corner of the country, left in more ways than one. And it's obvious what's happening there, what's been happening there, and what Trump and his administration are doing to remedy that. Let's see. I'm really small today. That's what they were trying. If not for Trump in 2016, we may not have been strong enough to survive. Yeah, that's a good point, Carrie. That was kind of a respite for this pretty much, since 2008. I always go back to what Barack Obama said in 2008, right before he was obviously going to be elected because John McCain basically quit. And he said, we're going to fundamentally transform the United States. Well, what does fundamentally transforming anything mean? You're going to take the fundamentals that make it and transform it into something different, change form. Transform means basically to change the form of something. And you got to give him credit. He's being honest. Nobody quite thought that through, because we were so caught up in actually electing a black man for president, and that was the big virtue signal we were making, and no one really cared what was said or what was intended. It was just, we're just going to get this done. That's why McCain basically quit. And yes, he was so weak because he wasn't going to be the guy who stopped a black man from becoming president. Okay, I live in Eastern California, also known as Utah. All right. My stepson was born in Utah. What part of Utah are you in? Maybe. And then, yes, kind of found out McCain was one of them. So, yeah, it was kind of a bipartisan thing. What has happened over the last, what you would call it, 18 years, the 18-year or 16-year, yeah, by election cycles. 16 years of destroying the foundations of America, the fundamentally transforming the United States, interrupted by 4 years of Trump. Like you said, Kerry, if it wasn't for those 4 years of Trump, we may have been too weak. Actually, if the all this stuff, I'm still not even sure if you could say it, and not get demonetized. But guys would know what I'm talking about. That little thing about 4 or 5 years ago that was the worst thing probably that ever happened in my lifetime in society. If that didn't completely destroy us, nothing else would. But that made us. That damaged us. The damage that did to our society was amazing. I heard somewhere that the lockdowns and all that stuff, all our reaction to that bug, cost 30 years of societal change, which I think may be a little exaggerated. I would guess probably, 15, 20 years of societal change were crammed into like a 2-year period. And all the Orwellian stuff that went down, the authoritarian stuff, reactions, and we saw what we were as a society, and we saw how effective that Obama strategy of fundamentally transforming the United States. I was so disappointed at so many of our fellow citizens that are willing to take and accept and embrace those authoritarian decisions, not only give up their own freedoms, but also be willing to force other people to give up their freedoms. And that's what was, to me, was so disappointing. So we've had this assault. We've had this assault on the foundations of America, and that is what Victor Davis Hanson was talking about there. The borders, obviously, like I said, living in Southern California, the finances, which, that's what's in the news now. And so it's interesting to see how that plays out. So that one's still in flux, the finances. He also mentioned unity, and that's a big one. And that's what's still going full blast. We have, ever since actually going back for that to Bill Clinton and his triangulation theory back when he was a president, where he was going to be in the middle and play both sides against each other, divide the country, and get the country fighting, and him being in the middle, getting what he wanted. And that's obviously still going on, and it's going on even stronger. It's kind of a full court press, I guess you would call it now, with the stock market doing what it's doing. You see a lot of like screaming, panicky people. I heard Stephen Colbert vaguely, his reaction was vaguely saying, hey, somebody has to stop this. And he called out something to do with stopping it permanently, going back to what happened over the summer. So there's a huge assault now on our unity. The fuel, that was an interesting thing that Victor Davis Hanson says, the fuel of a civilization, but that really makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Our civilization is fueled by gasoline, basically. If not for gasoline, if not for fossil fuels, our civilization would not exist the way it is now. We are so connected, and basically, the fundamental way we're connected is through fuel. And so, if you sabotage that, you can sabotage a civilization. And when you're talking about getting off of fossil fuels, it'll happen eventually. But to force that, to prematurely do that, is a very destructive thing. And the food is the last thing Victor Davis Hanson mentioned. The food supply has been a little tenuous ever since in the last 5 years. Food prices have just completely gone insane, to the point where it was really a shock to me when I closed my business, and I've been basically a house husband for the past year or so, remodeling our house, and then I've turned into gentleman farmer, Fieri Farms here. And I've been paying attention to finances, the actual day-to-day finances, which my wife has been very skillfully handling over the past 17 years of our marriage. And the cost of living has just gone incredibly high, and food is just insane. I was shocked to see the price, especially here in California. But those 5 things: borders, finances, unity, fuel, and food, have been assaulted the last 20 years, 15, 20 years. There's been a full court press on all of those. And so I asked the question, how strong are we? Are we strong enough now, through all these assaults? Have these assaults have this transformation of the fundamentals of America, this attempt at assaulting those fundamentals, tearing them down? I like the analogy of the foundations of the United States, which are life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, in God we trust, e pluribus unum, capitalism, Judeo-Christian Western values, one nation under God. That's our unity, right? Capitalism is our finances. Our borders, obviously, define themselves. And, amber waves of grain could be the food, right? In America, the beautiful, this song. So how have we come through this? And now that we have a administration, a strong president, and again, there's always, I go back to city models. There's always in a city, there's either a strong mayor set up or government or structure, or there's a weak mayor, strong city council. That's gone national. Now we have a strong president model. We just came off a very weak president model, obviously. And now we have a strong president model because Trump is doing this through executive orders. Most of what he's doing, most of the restoration and defense and fighting back from all the assaults on our fundamentals, he's doing through executive orders. And again, the big fight, I would say their legal system, I would add from what Victor Davis Hanson said, was the legal structure, the laws. I would add to border, finances, unity, fuel, food, I would add laws, because that was really what the founders wanted. They wanted a nation of laws, not of men. That's John Adams' famous quote. And these things are being played out in a strong executive and a strong judicial right now, because the Supreme Court and the courts, it's a battle between Trump and the courts right now, basically. Those two is a battle between the executive and the judicial. And fortunately, we have the ultimate judicial authority on, Trump has that on his side. So, but is America itself, how have we come through all of this? So let's see, let me get back to the comments here. Right. Um, I gave them 2 weeks to slow the spread, even though I also knew that was totally ridiculous. I trusted that, uh, but as soon as it was over and the masks were still on, uh, yeah, so my family, I listened, but after 2 weeks, I thought, so yeah, bacteria breeding grounds that everybody wore over their faces actually made a ton of people sick with bacterial pneumonia because, COVID did make a lot of people sick. So I think, yeah, I tend to think that's true on the COVID. I think it was more of our response. I think a lot of people died that didn't have to in a hospital alone, hooked up to a ventilator, right? Um, um, so, Lucas, that's the idea. God first, with the government answering to the people, right? Um, so, uh, so we've had this assault, and it went on for. I think it's been going on since the '60s, since I was a kid. I talk about that a lot. Some people would say it goes all the way back to Teddy Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson. Some people think it goes back to Abraham Lincoln when he, all the stuff he did, suspending habeas corpus and a lot of things he did to preserve the Union, actually started us on this road to strong central government, getting away from the idea, um, the original founders' ideas of a republic, these United States, right? A voluntary union of states, of independent states, into the United States, which is a strong union that basically has a strong federal government. At the end, it goes back to Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson, I guess. So, um, so are we strong enough now to, in particularly the sense of finances, because we just had a huge blow. I mean, last week, I guess it was early this week. Well, it started last week with the stock market, and I'm 65 years old, so I'm basically, if not retired, I'm on my way to retirement. And honestly, our retirement funds took a big hit last week, and a lot of people are in full panic mode, or were in full panic mode until yesterday, I guess, when the stock market bounced back. I think saw it's down again today. So are we strong enough to be patient and not panic during this time and abandon all of the things that Trump is doing to restore our borders, finances, unity, fuel, and food? Because he's trying to do it to restore our finances, and I do understand what he does. Finances and the stock market and this whole economic engine that drives our country is very complex. But if there's one guy that understands it, it is Trump. And I think what he's doing, the explanation that I heard that makes the most sense to me, is what he's trying to do is, we've been on an overly inflated stock market for a long time. And I think he's trying to get the stock market to more realistic place. He's obviously trying to get tariffs and international trade straightened out. That's the mechanism that he's using to do this. The way the markets have reacted is, I think, have been predictable, because people were predicting it. For a long time, they're predicting if he keeps going with these tariffs, the stock market is not going to like it, and it didn't in a big way. So, can we endure this without panicking and without abandoning the whole project, the whole America Restoration project, the whole Make America Great Again? Are we strong enough to take this pain and see it for the long term? And especially, we should be, because the key to the stock market is thinking long term. You can't win the stock market thinking short term. And for all these people selling off their stocks, people don't realize, if you sell off your stocks, they're not going nowhere. They're not disappearing. Someone is buying them. So really what's happening, people are selling the stocks to people who are buying stocks. So the people who are thinking long-term are buying these stocks from the people who are panicking short-term and selling them. So can the rest of the country though, can we be patient? Because I know my wife and I, my wife especially, she's like, what's happening? And I'm like, long term, I know this is not great timing for this to happen, but long term, this will be good. It will also be good for our future, and that's something that we often don't think about because we all get focused on the assault that's directly on us now, um, and we don't think of our future. One of the things that this will come from this, I think, is with the tariffs and the economic reform is happening, is our kids will be able. It's deflationary. I think this was someone who was saying an analysis I heard that he's trying to get prices down because inflation, since all this, inflation has been killing people, literally and figuratively killing people. And I know our kids are in their 20s now. They're just starting their adult life. And they're looking at us and saying, how can we possibly afford a home? How can we possibly afford to have a family, at least, especially in California? But anywhere, this is, you talk about the stuff of civilization, what he was talking about. I added laws to it, but you could also add families to it. What's going to happen to our future if our children can't afford or are de-incentivized to having children and family, which they are? Okay, the replacement rate of birth rate is catastrophic, and if it doesn't change soon in a big way, it's going to end the civilization eventually. Our children might see the end of our civilization simply because they didn't have children. Um, so, um, so my question is: are we strong enough? Do we have enough faith in our borders, our finances, our unity, our laws, and the family to take the pain it takes to restore all of these things that have been attacked in the last 20 years, say? So that was my question. And I see you guys are you talking about Bill Gates? Oh, I don't see. Gary, the people are not yet strong enough. We must keep the truth coming. Yeah. God, family, guns, and gas, and that's America. Okay. Yeah, I'll buy that. Wind power only works when it's windy. Solar power only works when it's sunny. Sunny, gas works every time you crank the engine. Yeah, that's true. That is absolutely true. And the food, yeah, I thought about Bill Gates too. Bill Gates needs to keep his creepy freaking fingers off our food. I don't want him genetically modifying anything. He's a college dropout. Oh, I don't hold that against him. What does he know of anything? He knows computers. And that's what I would give Bill Gates. He knows computer software. Put that way, he's freaking genius on computer software. He literally changed the world. He earned all his money with that. But you're right. He needs to keep his fingers off anything else. I'm not sure what he'd be guilty of, but Frankenfood is probably cheaper. Bill Gates' Frankenfood is probably cheaper than the real stuff. Yeah. I haven't really kept that much track of what he's doing, but I know he has been buying farmland like crazy. Families need to live in complexes for a while. Why would they need to live in complexes? That's the socialist model that I don't like. I know that there's a big push here in California for that kind of thing, not complex living, but apartment living. In this area, they're trying to force this model of high density housing along rail lines, which in California just does not work. And it wouldn't work in any other part of the country because it's too spread out. And again, as I always say, when I talk about California, most of what you're talking about is a 20-mile wide strip down the coast of California. But yeah, trying to force people into that. What we need to do is obviously get interest rates down, make wages up, And again, with the tariffs and cracking down on the border and illegal immigration, and getting manufacturing coming back to the United States, wages should come up. Things should be more affordable for younger people. We need to reinstall a work ethic that was absolutely killed. That might have been the one of the worst things that all the lockdowns did, was it destroyed the work ethic in a couple short years. And you see it when you go out. You see that you go to a restaurant, you can tell they're understaffed. You go to any other place, Home Depot's understaffed. And it just, and again, you can't tell me that wasn't intentional. That was part of the blasting away at the bearing walls of our society. There's chipping away at the foundation of our society, which has been going on for 100 years. But in the last 20 years, they've just been taking sledgehammers and jackhammers to the foundation and the bearing walls. And again, that time period took away so much of the foundation of our civilization. So, but again, and that was maybe the left's best shot. And again, are we strong enough to take it? Bring the power back home through home churching, schooling, gardening, everything tradesy. The return of the barter system whenever possible. It's if another whole, talk about the barter system, another whole aspect in this. And this is one thing that Trump, I don't know if he grasps this or not, but when we become a cashless society, that's going to hugely affect things. If you can't barter privately between two people with cash without the government knowing, that's a huge assault on freedom. So yeah, some kind of barter system. That's not a complex to me, Joel. Oh, just all on one property until they can afford their own. Yeah, which is basically, I mean, our daughter and her fiance. Her fiance is living in a small apartment that they will live in after they get married, and but it's a shoebox for insanely high. So you have to make those complexes affordable, and you have to provide an avenue for them to get out of them. As it stands now, and again, I'm jaded because I'm in California, but in this part of the world, they can't do it with the amount of rent they're paying for this little shoebox. They will never be able to have a home in California. So everyone's, oh, hey, there you go. There you go. Congratulations. All right. Okay, number 6. She's doing her part. No, she's doing over and above. So, like I said, every woman has to have 2 children. She's doing the work of 3 women. Good for her. Send my congratulations, Robin. Way to go. So that's the kind of thing that needs to happen. That's the value we have to have on family, on children, and that's the only thing that I really worry about that's irrecoverable from this is none of this, all this is moot unless we start having children again, unless our young people start having children. Everything we talk about is moot. The whole Make America Great Again will not have the effect we want if we don't, that we want, unless we convince our children, especially our young ladies, that they need to get married and have children. And it's not something that young women want to hear now. So, but because not too many young women like Robin's daughter are in that mindset, but good for her. The future is hers. Okay. And her family's and her husband's. He's a lucky guy. Hope. And why do people move out of California when they, yeah, that's the eternal thing I hear from all of my friends in other parts of the country. Yeah, I know. And that may be an intentional thing too. I don't know. Depends on how deep you want to get into that. But we're out of time. We could talk about this forever. So thanks for joining in, guys. Thanks for listening. I will see you next week. I don't think we're on tomorrow with Mike and Ben. So we'll see you next week. Thanks.